Well, hello everybody and welcome to Jeff's Baking Vlog. Now today I'm going to be making a malt loaf, or a sticky malt loaf. I had a comment on my YouTube channel from a lady in Australia whose mother keeps mentioning a proprietary malt loaf that we get in England and that she remembers from when she lived in England, called Serene. So this is very similar to that, but it's not quite the same because Serene has lots of ingredients in order to sort of be that particular product that we don't readily get. But this still is a very, very good malt loaf, and for it I have 250 grams of plain flour and a teaspoon of baking powder and a pinch of salt. I have 125 millilitres of black tea, 100 grams of dark brown muscovado sugar, 35 grams of black treacle, 150 grams of malt extract, and 2 medium eggs. That would be large in the USA. I also have some extra flour which I will be using for this, 100 grams of sultanas and 100 grams of raisins, which I've just mixed together, and I'll be using the flour for those later on. So the first thing to do is to preheat your oven to 160 Celsius, 140 Celsius with a fan. That's about 320 to 325 Fahrenheit. And you want to line a baking tray, a 2 pound or 900 gram baking tray, loaf tin, with parchment paper. And then the first thing we're going to do is to heat up, but only so that it's warm, the muscovado sugar and the malt extract and the black treacle. We don't want it to get hot, we just want to warm it through so that the sugar dissolves. So I'm going to put that onto a very, very low heat and let that dissolve. So as you can see, this is dissolved and turned quite runny, but it's not hot, it's just warm. So I'm going to turn the heat off. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is to put my flour into a large bowl, and I'm going to put in the baking powder and the salt, and I'm going to give those a whisk together to get them combined. And then I'm going to pour in that malt, sugar and black treacle mixture. I want to get as much of it as I can. And to that I'm going to add the black tea, 125 millilitres, and I'm going to mix those into the flour. And as I'm mixing those, I'm going to add the eggs, but I'm just going to beat them a little bit to break them up. And I'll mix the eggs in as well. And then I'll just set that aside for a moment. I'm going to put my tablespoon of flour into the sultanas and raisins. I'm just going to mix those around to coat them. And they can then go into the batter as well and just get mixed. And the final step is to put that into our loaf tin. Like that. And then we're going to bake that in the oven for an hour. Now if you think the top is browning too much, you can lightly cover it with some tin foil for the last few minutes. So I'll bake that in the oven for an hour. Then I'll take it out and I'll come back and show you what it looks like. Well, I'm back with you, and I've taken our loaf out of the oven, and as you can see it's split on the top, but that doesn't matter. Often they do. I think if I'd baked it at a slightly lower temperature but for longer, it wouldn't have split, but that's fine. And what I'm going to do is, it's still very, very warm. It's only been out of the oven a couple of minutes. And I have a little bit more malt extract here, and I'm just going to brush the top with the malt extract. I'm not going to brush the sides, just the top, just to give it that extra little bit of stickiness and flavour. And then I'm going to let it cool down completely before I cut it and have a look inside. Right, so that's it. I'm going to let that cool down and then I'll come back and we'll cut it and we'll have a taste of it. And our cake has now cooled down, our malt loaf should I say, and I've sliced it, and as you can see it looks good, the fruit's nicely spread around, and I would usually put some butter on this, but for the purposes of tasting I'm not going to. It's so nice and moist, and it's already quite sticky. You have that malty flavour and the sort of molasses type flavour that you get from the black treacle and the muscovado sugar. It's very good indeed, I have to say, and it's so easy to make. So as I say, if you were to wrap this up or put it in an airtight container and leave it for 2 or 3 days, it gets even stickier, and it's very, very nice. You can also slice it if you want to and freeze a few slices in little packs so that you've got them available whenever you want them. So that's going to be it for this recipe. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below the video and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there will be an eye that will take you to my blog if you click on it, and to the recipe on my blog, and I'll also put a link to that below the video, and I'll be back with you in the very near future with another video. So until then, happy baking.